Hello, everybody. I'm just here to talk about certain things that have now happened to us. One of the things that I want to talk about is actually the way that we interact with our phones, our supermarket, our restaurant ordering, and things of that nature. So, what happened before back in the day? A lot of sort of Gen Xers or Y or Gen Z or whatever, they wouldn't know this, but when we used to make a phone call and you wanted to talk to an operator, you'd hit zero and you'd actually talk to an operator. And we didn't have cell phones in those days, let alone smartphones. We had just the wired phones that hook into the screen. Sorry, so it hooked wire phones that hooked into the wall, or plugged into the wall. I did eventually, like in the '80s, they came out with cordless phones, which used radio frequencies, but you still had a base, which you had to talk to. The phone receiver communicated with the base that was plugged into the wall. So, and the range wasn't all that great. You could walk to one end of the house and you could start hearing the static and everything like that. You knew you were losing signal. Nowadays, we don't have that. Nowadays, when you call anybody, whether it be your cell phone company, whether it be a bank or your car insurance, a financial institution, government, they're notorious for this. You don't talk to an operator, you are talking to a machine, a recorded voice, which is guided from AI. So it uses algorithms and tries to learn our languages and things like that in terms of modeling itself to come up with responses to a lot of questions or trying to get to a certain category in order to solve your problem. Now, it's still obviously a work in progress. A lot of times it doesn't do what it's supposed to do, it doesn't send you to what you're supposed to do, and it just basically randomly gives you something different than what you said before. Even like today's day and age, you still press a button in terms of to get to this menu or this option or that option. But sometimes some of them, they just want you to speak it, and that's where you run into a lot of difficulty. And it's not just that too. You go to McDonald's, and you used to have the teller, or you go to, like, you go to your coffee shop or something, Tim Hortons, a bank, and used to have your teller or your cashier there who would take your order, take your money, your method of payment, and then you would be on your way. But nowadays, we have the kiosks that you see inside McDonald's, and I think maybe Tim Hortons is starting to have them too. Certain restaurants, but basically, when it comes to, I think when it comes to fast food, McDonald's is the market leader. Why, I don't know. I guess when I was a kid, McDonald's was a big deal, but now, as an adult and knowing more what I know now, yeah, I don't really go to McDonald's at all. But instead of talking to the cashier, you have a kiosk which you go in, you tap the screen and put your order in, and then you get this receipt with a number on it. They call your number when it's ready, and that's how it works. I suppose it's the same thing as the drive-through, but the drive-through, you're actually talking to somebody. Now, whether they get your order right or not, it's hit or miss, but that's how that works. You go to the bank and you have a teller who used to be there, and now you do have tellers, but they're few and far between, and they mostly want you to use the machine or your phone app, or on the computer, internet. Everything nowadays, you get better, sort of faster responses by using their web-based applications. For whatever reason, I guess they look at that before, if you phone and leave a message, or they do telephone banking, or even talk to a teller, right? You go to a teller and you're waiting in line because they have two tellers there, and there are people who still just want to talk to the person, right? And also there are some things that you need a person to talk to do to the bank. You know what I mean? When it comes to, like, your mortgage and things like that, it's you have to talk to somebody, and you do have the services for that. When you're talking to your telecommunication company, so your Bell or your Rogers or your Telus, or in my case, I use Freedom Mobile. You have to go through a menu to when you want to talk to somebody there, or it's the web-based app and all that to find out what your monthly bill is, and things like that. It's a complicated process, to say the least. So yeah, there's that. And I just wanted to sort of talk about that a little bit and discuss it, and just trying to different formats with this video. I have a bunch of screenshots running, a little slideshow running about certain things, and I'm just showing you all the different little companies and how a phone screen is, our dial screen, and then even at the airport. At the airport, I went to Pearson the other day, and but before I could go to actually check in my bag, I had to go to a machine and scan my passport and my QR code for your boarding pass. They give you a QR code, and then it printed up a sticker that you put on your luggage, and then you take it over to the B Wade and all that stuff like that. But you don't have to check in that way. I guess it's called the new automated check in for your flight. It was an interesting experience to say the least, but you still have to have somebody there. Just like when you go to the supermarket and you go to the self-serve checkout, there has to be somebody there because these technologies are still in their teething phases, I suppose. And there's always a situation that comes up that an automated machine can't handle. It's not again, AI isn't. I don't know if AI will ever be able to figure out the quirks and quirks of a human mind the way that a human can, having the ingenuity and sort of having the same type of mindset can figure out another human. It's an art to say the least, and I give power and props to people that can do that. Those counselors and psychiatrists and things like that who just know about the human mind and can sort of diagnose and say things and help you out. Obviously, everybody has different degrees of what they like to deal with, and I see it in my class dealing with seniors. It's a daunting world out there that it's becoming more and more automated as we go by. I went to renew my sticker on my license, the plate portion, and the website that I went to basically told me to check the status of my license, and it sure enough it had automatically renewed. So if you sort of keep your nose clean and don't have any parking tickets or speeding tickets on your well, I don't know if speeding tickets would count because I think speeding tickets go towards your actual driver's license, but parking tickets would definitely go to your vehicle. Well, no, sorry, my bad. To be honest, we do have those red light cameras, which are automated as well. You drive by the red light camera or the speeding cameras on you see on some residential streets, especially where there's schools. You'll see those little cameras. So yeah, those will go against your license, and then if you have it outstanding, then it won't automatically renew. You'll have to deal with that before you can go and renew your license portion. So yeah, we just there's a lot of things in our society that are sort of a lot of moving parts to what we do in life and how we interact with things. It's quite it's extraordinary, and it's a lot, to be honest with you. And I there are certain tips and tricks that you can do. You can for sure say just I just like when I talk to a service. So if I'm calling the bank or if I'm calling my insurance or something like that, I usually just keep pressing zero. Usually it takes you to a customer representative. Also, the recording detects your attitude. So if it finds that you're getting more and more agitated as the call goes on, it usually bumps you up in the queue in order to talk to somebody. But a lot of times I end up just punching zero because half the time when I go through the list and try to get to where I'm going, I'm usually in the wrong spot anyway, and they have to transfer me back to the where we need to go. But this is it. This is where we're heading in society because the more automation, the less you have to pay a person. And what's more expensive than having to pay a human being and pay insurance on this person and pay tax and also you have to, if they're sick, you have to replace them. If they get benefits, if you offer benefits, a machine, you just have to do maintenance on the machine. So it's easier just to keep a machine in AI. Anyway, I just wanted to talk about that a little bit and briefly say that it's daunting. It's a little bit difficult to deal with. However, it is the way that we are going. We are heading down this path, and it's becoming more and more prevalent. There's really nothing we can do. We've sort of accepted this from the time that self-serve gas stations came out, and we decided that, instead of giving a guy a tip and having the gas station pay for somebody to pump the gas, why not pump it ourselves? We've accepted that, so that's a paradigm shift that we had, and that occurred long, long, long ago. So it's just an evolution of that process. In terms of the banks, there was a time when you'd go to the bank and you'd have to do it Monday to Friday. Bring your paycheck, because you used to get an actual physical paycheck before we had direct deposit. And you'd go to the teller and cash your check and make sure you had enough money for the weekend, because the banks were virtually closed on the weekend. And then they came out with the automated teller, but it was bank specific. So if you're a TD, you'd have to find a TD machine, and Scotia, you'd have to find a Scotia machine, so on and so forth. And then that changed. Now we have multiple different machines, and we go from there. But it's been a paradigm shift, for sure, and that's just the sort of the road that we've headed down, and we're going to continue on that road. I can't say for sure exactly where it's headed past that. I know that we have different sort of mediums that we used to use. So we used to actually had to swipe your card, and it would read the magnetic strip, and then you would put in your PIN. Then they came out with the chip. So we have cards with the chip in there, because the chip proved to be more reliable than the magnetic strip. The magnetic strip would wear out, and then the card would become less effective. And now you have the PIN, where you put the chip in, and then you put in your PIN. And now we've have tap. So you allow your card to tap up to a certain limit, and there's a NFC, near field communication device, embedded in the card that would be read by the reader. And it seems like we're heading down that path to some extent. So anyway, I just wanted to do a brief video about these different things. And again, I wish I could say that we could wind back the clocks and go back to a simpler time. Yeah, yes, I don't think that's going to happen, but one can only hope. Anyway, I just hope this gives everybody a little bit of insight into what we deal with and how we deal with these things. And again, I teach a course of seniors how to sort of deal with things like this technology in our life as a senior, from a senior perspective. And I teach it at Melford Methodist Church. So if you ever in that area and you want to come to a class, by all means, register. Fall sessions start back up. And yeah, that's Peace and Good. I hope everybody has a wonderful day, and I will see you later. Take care.